Hello everyone. In this tutorial, I am going to explain how we can store geolocation into MySQL database or maybe any database. And also with that, I will show you like once we will save the information, location related information into the database. So how we can like fetch based on this URL the nearest location for this particular user. So that things I am going to explain in this tutorial. So like whenever we are going to working with some location related things and all those stuff related to the location for storing the location of particular user, so we may face some challenges like how we are going to store this geolocation into the MySQL. So for storing or maybe for working with this geolocation kind of things, we need to use the Hibernate Spatial Feature. So what is that? I'm going to the detail of it, like why you are going to use this Hibernate Spatial. But for storing this location into the database and like also fetch the nearest location of that particular user based on some customized location. Maybe if we want to search for that particular user nearest location which is under this 5 kilometer radius or maybe 10 kilometer radius, something like that, right? That can be customizable. So how we are going to achieve this one using this uh, how we are going to using this save those data in the MySQL. So for saving the data as a project, as an application, basically, I am going to use Spring Boot application, and for that we are going to use the data JPA and some of the REST APIs, so that we can store the data from the REST APIs, and we can store the data. So as you know, as we are trying to explain over here, like how we are going to work with this location related things. For that, Hibernate Spatial Feature is there. In next slide, I'm talked about the Hibernate Spatial. So what is this? This is basically standard interface for working with graphical data, means geographic data kind of data if we want to work. So then the Hibernate specialist come to the picture for working with some those geometrical kind of data. So geometric data includes the representation of entities like a point, circle, line, polygon, etc. Right? So these data types actually basically are not part of the JDBC specification. So that's why whenever we are working with some Spring Boot project with Spring Data, so those are we are not able to get those information by default. So for that, so there's one JTS Topology Suite has become a standard for representing these spatial data types. So Hibernate, this special supports basically it's supported by the different types of databases like Oracle, MySQL, Postgres. So in this demonstration, I'm going to use the MySQL, but you guys can use any other databases like PostgreSQL, Oracle, and etc. Other databases, few other databases also which just support this Hibernate special feature. So here I am going to create one Spring Boot project with this MySQL Hibernate dependencies for saving the user location into the database, and also another API I will create which will like find out the nearest location for that user. So as a basically Maven dependencies, we are going to use like if we talked about the dependencies required for this one. So for that Hibernate special, there's one actually dependencies that will provide the support for these data types. So that I'm going to used over here. So next we will talk about what is the geometry type and utility classes of, because whenever you are going to working with this geometry kind of things, location related things, then this geometry type and the utility classes comes under picture for working with it. So better to just having some little bit of idea what is the geometry type and what are the utility classes. It will help us to create or write the code in better way, right? So it's better to understand those things in lots of detail over there. You guys can obviously get some idea, but in a you can learn a lot of things from there also. So if we understand the little bit of it, like what the geometry type, what are the utility classes are basically used, so that we can easily write the code in application. Okay. So if we talked about the geometry type, so geometry is the base type for all the special types in JTS. So JTS means the JTS Topology Suite actually. So we are having this point, polygon, then like circle. So the geometry type in Java correspond to having the geometry type and also having the same type of the geometry in the MySQL as well as. Okay. Next, if we talked about this utility classes, so this is basically whenever we are getting some inputs from the user, like this is the location. So for that, we need to, so if we by parsing the string representation of the any type, we are get the instance of the geometry. So the utility class, this WKT reader provided by the JTS, that can be used to convert any well-known text representation to the geometry type. So this particular class is basically used to conversion of the well-known text WKT represented to the geometry type. So this is the use of this geometry reader. So while we're working with this special kind of thing, so it's provide some kind of the functions to working with this, like st underscore distance underscore sphere. So this particular method is basically used to calculate the distance for 2 points, 3 points. So this is the basically used to in MySQL. So I'll show you like in a real scenarios. I will create one table and over there we'll put some data. For some user will put some point over there, and then I will show you like how you are going to calculate the distance for those things. Okay. And the geom from text, this is another one, st underscore geometry from text. So this is converted the geometry to text. st underscore as text representation of geometry. There are other methods also, function also, that actually I'm not going to cover over here. I'm just trying to cover the basic functions what are basically required to develop this project application, that I'm going to cover over here. In next, I will create one like applications using Spring Boot, and over there I will explain all the things like how we are going to save the data, save the location information into the MySQL database, and also how we are going to fetch nearest location for that particular user using this like Spring Boot project. So let's create project and do those code. Okay, so without any further ado, let's create the code. So from here, basically from the Spring Boot starter applications, we can create the project over here. We can choose the like language and the dependencies and the Spring Boot version, then project metadata. So once we select all those things as a dependencies, I've used this Spring Dev Tools, Lombok, Spring Web for creating the REST APIs and all those things. We need this, use these dependencies. Then Spring Data JPA for working with the database related operations. We need this Spring Data JPA, and then MySQL driver, as we are going to use this MySQL MySQL service. Okay. So next, basically, we will click on the generate button. So after click on this generate button, it will like downloaded the project for us, and then we can like import this project over here. So while we have imported this project, then it will be look like something this. So if we check the pom.xml over here, then like we can see the data JP over here, starter web, dev tools, MySQL connector, Lombok, and then starter test. So these are the over here. But with that also we need another dependencies which is basically required for geometry or special Hibernate special kind of thing. So the dependencies is like Hibernate special, it will become over here, and then we need to import this one. Okay, 642, the version would be, we need to use this 642, it will be the latest one. Okay, so this version we are going to use over here. So now we can write the code for this one, like we can configure the MySQL properties over here, and then we can create the APIs, and we also create those services. So let's create those APIs first, but before that also we need to create the MySQL connector over here. So let us create this connecting from in the properties file. So let me open this properties file. So here basically we can first of all we need to create the database configuration. So for that we need to provide the database class over here. So as we are using this MySQL, so database driver class is this MySQL, and then we need to define the data source URL. So for us the URL would be, it will be then maybe it's training. So in this here actually basically we are going to create that one table we are going to create over here. But before that also we need to define the username and password for this, for connecting with the MySQL. So the username is root, and then the password is password. And then we need to like define the dialect for connecting with this one. So the dialect will be the MySQL dialect. This is the dialect org Hibernate dialect, MySQL dialect. So nothing is required for now, but one thing we can mention over here, just to like print the in the console. Basically, if we want to print the Hibernate kind of SQL log, so that it will actually basically it will print that log, so that we need to use these two properties, like it will format the SQL as well as the it will also show us the SQL. Okay, so this is all about these properties. Next, basically we can create one first of all one controller over here, and so that we can before creating the controller also, maybe what we can do, we can create one like entity, so that the entity would be like maybe user location. So here we can create one package over here, like dot entity. Okay, so let me create one class over here, user location. Okay, and here basically we need to define the getter setter over here. Then with that also we need to define this as entity module, like it will be represented as a database table. So that's why we can't map this with, and also we can like mapping the table. So let's say the table name is it can be user underscore location. Okay, and here basically we are going to keeping the name as id. It will be a auto increment id. So for that we need to annotate, these are the basic of this Hibernate, like id we need to use it, then generated value will be as identity, then the column name also we need to define over here. Next, with that id we can keep one username over here. So let's like create this username, and then we can create the geometry. So how we are going to define this location for storing the location? So for that we need to annotate the column as at the red column over here, and then we need to define the name like coordinate. Okay, and here basically we can define private, then the type will be geometry. Okay, and you can see the geometry is come, we need to use this package org.locationTech.jts.geom. Okay, this is the geometry, and here basically we are going to store this point. Okay, so this entity creation is done now. So next we are going to create one controller, which is basically here we can save the location of this create the controller. So let us create one controller over here, class like let location controller. Okay, so here basically we need to mapping this as REST controller, and then request mapping. Okay, and here maybe we can define as the path like /API. Okay, so first API will be like for saving the location into that particular table. So let's give some name, like something like return type will be string saved location. Okay, it will be a get method obviously. So here we can pass three parameter which are basically going to store here. So request mapping like string username, and for location basically what input type we are getting kind of latitude and longitude, right? So we need another two inputs which are the latitude and longitude. Okay, so once we define those things, then we need to save those information. It will be a instead not request mapping, it will be a request param. Okay, so now we can create one method over here, like let's say private location service. Okay, this service we are going to create over here, location service, and this location service basically do those all those things like save location. Here we are going to create this method, and this particular method is it should take these three parameter. One is the username, then latitude and the longitude. Okay, so once these are done basically, then it will give us some like user location in response, user location, and okay, and here we can like say like the user location saved successfully with this we can pin this ID over here, and okay, we can pin this ID over here dot get ID. Okay, so we can do these things, and then finally we can return some strings like user location or user details is saved successfully, right? So next basically we are going to create this service class, create this class inside of dot service package. Okay, so here basically we need to create this as a service annotation. Okay, so here basically we are going to create this method. So here we are going to write one method which will basically save the location. So here, and this particular method actually will take three parameters. One is the like username, and another two are like longitude and the latitude, right? Okay, so it will be a user location, not sure detail. Okay, so here how we are going to save this data. Okay, for the timing let me return as a null, then later on we'll update. So first of all, as in the presentation I was showing, for reading the data for the latitude and the longitude, we can use the WKT reader. So how we are going to use this one? WKT reader, this one. Okay, so this will read the geometry data. Okay, so we need to first create this instance for this one. Okay, next using this reader, basically using this reader dot here actually having one method which is basically read this one, this read, and here we need to pass the reader. So how it will read this point? So point, so the syntax is something like this, point, and then we need to define this all the things over here. Okay, so here latitude and then longitude, means in the structure of the point it will basically actually read the data, and it will obviously it will provide us the throw some exception, the parse exception that we need to throw. Means while parsing this record, if it is getting some kind of issues, then it will throw the parse exception. Okay, now here we are going to create this one, user location equals to new user location, and then dot set point. It's okay, after this basically this one is written as a geometry. Okay, as you can see over here, so this will be the geometry, so that we can store after reading the data over here. Okay, and this one we can use over here. So this geometry we can set that over here, and then user location dot set username. Okay, we are setting this data over here, and finally we need to return this. Okay, and the ID we are not setting over here because ID is the auto increment ID, so that's why we don't need to used over here. And finally also we need to save this record into the database. So for saving the record we need to use one repository over here. Okay, so how we are going to create this one? Private, then like user location repository. Okay, user location repo. Okay, and we need to create this as interface under new package like repo, we can say here, and obviously it will be extend CRUD repository. Okay, and here we need to provide this user location and then the ID will be integer. Okay, so this repository we have created over here, and then we use this. So using this repo, now yes, need to save this data for location and entity. This location we need to pass over here. So we have saved data over here, and in return it will return this user location. So once we save the data, it will basically give us the ID into this user location table, and we can get the ID in the response. Okay, so this is for saving the data actually into the database. How we are going to save the data? You can save it. And it will throw the exception. We are throwing this exception instead of, we can also catch the exception over here, but for the timing I can like return the data over here. Okay, so next like we can check this one, test this one, and then we'll create another API which will basically fetching the nearest location. Okay, so let test this service. So for checking actually, okay, just one point I missed over here. Actually I need to annotate this one as get mapping, and here we need to provide the name like saved user location. Okay, now we can start this application like Java application. It will take some time to start, not much. Yeah, it started now. Okay, so now if we want to run this one, so let me run this one, saved user location. So here this will be the save user location. Here we are passing this demo user one, and then here basically we are going to pass save the like latitude and the longitude here. So let's say latitude is this for this user one. Okay, and longitude this. Okay, now if we click this send, then it is giving 500, but why 500 is giving, let me check. Okay, this table actually, okay, we need to create the table. So here actually we need to create the table. So how we are going to create the table? So let's say like create table, and then table name like user location, and then here basically we are going to create one ID, and then like username like this ID 10, then username, and then we are going to use this coordinate. Okay, like here. So we can create this first, what it is saying. Okay, actually it will be a parenthesis. Okay, now it will yeah, now table is created. Here you can see the location doesn't have any record. Now if we try to hit this one, so okay, again it is throwing the exception. So we need to check like what is the exception over here. Here exception is showing. Okay, generate identity. So here basically we need to set this alter this table, and we need to alter this one, and ID will be set as like auto increment and the primary key. Okay, so that it will not saved as empty one. Okay, now if we hit this one, yeah, now you can see the user location details saved successfully. Now like if we refresh this one, so you can see the coordinate. So here you can see that we are not able to get the coordinate details, we are not get the details. So for fetching the details over here, we need to use some queries. Okay, so how we are going to check this one, like we can write some queries over here. Select like username comma st underscore like as text. Okay, and then we need to pass this coordinate from user underscore location. Okay, now we can see the details, like now we can get the coordinates, right, that we have saved. Now if we also again like save the details for another user like demo user 2, let's say, and here maybe we can say we can put another latitude and longitude over here, let's say this one. Okay, if we save this one, it will saved. Next like demo 3, we can change the details over here. Okay, so these are the details we have saved, so that like near future you can fetch the details based on some, we can calculate some location, like if we try like from demo user the distance from this point to this point, so that we can easily calculate. So that's why I put some dummy user over here. Okay, so next basically we can like create another API. So this API is working fine now, like for saving the details for particular user. Now we are like we will create another service which will basically uh, save the, not saved actually, it will match the actually uh, details, or maybe find the details for which are the nearest location basically if we want to get. So for that we will create another service over here. Let me create another class like matching, or maybe find nearest user service. Okay, it will be, we can annotate this method as service layer. Okay, so over here what we can say, first of all we can create one method like public void find nearest location. Okay, so based on what input we need to find out, based on the username. Okay, based on the username we need to find out. Okay, so next what we can find out, basically we need to find out first of all we need to find out the point for particular user, right? So here basically we need to use whatever this private user details repository, user location repository actually. Okay. Okay, so using this repository dot find coordinate by username. Okay, and here we need to pass this username. Okay, so this particular method we need to create over here, and what basically we need to write one query over here, like select so here actually we need to write this query. Okay, so here basically value equals to select. So what basically what we are going to fetch over here, point from user location where user name equals to user name. Okay, so this we have passed over, so based on that it will return this point, right? And the return type of this one, it will be a geometry. Okay, so it will give this geometry. Okay, so next what we can do over here, we can read this data using the WKT reader, so that we can read this geometry. Using this WK writer, actually basically we need to write this one, and here we need to pass this geometry so that we can get the point as a string representation. And next basically based on this point we need to fetch all the nearest location for that particular user. So for that, here basically we need to write one query. Okay, so what will be the query? So the query will be let me write over here. This is very important actually. Find nearest, find all the location, for example. Okay, so what input basically we can take for this one? So the input will be like, one is the geometry like this point, and another one will be username, right? So these two things we can get over here. And the return type, obviously it will be a object array, because here I am going to write the, not the JP query, here I am going to write the like native queries, Hibernate native queries. Okay, so how we are going to write the native queries, that also you guys can understand, like how we are going to write the native queries. So here we can use this query. Okay, value equals to okay, okay. So here what we need basically from this one, we need the username and the distance, right? So select, then like we can say user underscore name comma. So here basically we are going to use the distance, calculate the distance. So for calculating the distance, basically MySQL provide this method over here, and for converting the geometry to text we are using this one. Okay, so here we can pass this geometry, like what is the input over here, this point, and then here from which basically we are going to uh, checking the data, so there will be a coordinate. So that means this geometry we are going to pass over here, it will convert this geometry for distance. Basically for calculating the distance we need two parameter, this will be the point 1 and this will be the point 2. So point we can get from the database, but for the point one it will be passed from the as a input. It will be the user, like for which actually are going to calculate. And like next, if we are going to calculate the output as kilometer, then we need to divide this one as 1000. So as distance, okay, from user location, okay, where what will give some input, like that particular user, like where username, user underscore name, not equals to this particular given username. Means whatever the input basically we are giving, so except this we are calculating the distance for other user. Okay, so this will be the basically what you can say, this will be the basically syntax for this one. Here we can also add another additional kind of things like order by this distance, so that it will sort this output by this distance. Okay, and default is the ascending. And here, as it is a native query, so here we need to mention that native query equals to true. Native query equals to true, as it is a native query. So what we have done over here, we are selecting the data from the user location table, like select the username, and here basically we are calculating the distance. So how we are going to calculate the distance? So for that, st underscore distance underscore sphere, this is one method, and this particular method take two inputs, 2 points, so that it will calculate the point. So this is the input point, like user point, for which user we are going to calculate the distance from which user, like let's say like there is a user 1 in India and user 2 is in the US. So this will be the user 1 input and this will be the user 2 input. Okay, and again, like suppose from the user 1 to, if we want to calculate some location from London, okay, so this will be the user 1 location and this will be the London location. So in this way basically it will calculate the distance for any user. And in the where condition we have put some condition, like it will not calculate for the same user, like whatever the input you have given except this user, it will calculate distance for other user. Okay, so this is actually does. If you guys have anything like any doubt, please you guys can add in a comment section. Okay, I will try to like clear those things. Okay, so next over here basically we are going to call this one. Okay, like we need to method, we need to call this one, find all the location, here's the point and then username. Okay, so it will basically return the list of object array, location details. Okay, and we can create one DTO, like so that we can store this information over here. Like I am creating this matching user details DTO over here. Okay, we have created one DTO over here, and we need to put this information over here, like we need to iterate this list, and then based on the iteration we need to like store the data over here. Not map, for each, yes, this one. And here we can create one list for this one, this matching user list, and then based on that we can store the data, like username and the distance, username object and then dot set distance. Okay, it will be a 1. Okay, and then finally we need to add this information into a list, and then we need to return this from over here. Okay, from over here we can return this one. We need to change this return type. Okay, so now actually from the controller basically we need to create another API, like let's say find nearest location. It will be a get mapping. Nearest location, find nearest location. Okay, so over here we can location service dot okay, we have another service over here. We need to inject that service over here and then okay, dot we need to pass this username. Okay, and then we can return from over here. Okay, so this is the API. Now we can run this one. Okay, it's already restarted. Now from the postman we can check this one. Okay, so what is the API name? This one. So we have already like imported data using this one. Okay, this save the user location, and here we are going to find the details. So let's say we are passing the username as demo_1. So it will give us the data. We are getting the 500 error. So let's check. No argument parameter username order. Okay, so there is some issues with that. Okay, let's rerun this application. Here is actually one space was missing, so due to this it was taken with this username and the order, so that's why it's causing issues. Now if we retry again getting the casting. Okay, casting issues. Okay, find matching service, nearest user service. Here is a string. Okay, it is not, it's saying that they are not able to casting with this one, so it will be actually not a string, it will be a double kind of thing. So we can say change this mapping one to double, or then we can give something like kilometer. Okay, okay, now we can see we can get the output over here. So you can see the for demo user 2 and the demo user 3 we can getting the details, like it's a 110 kilometer and it's a 1722 kilometers, right? So in this way basically we can calculate the like distance for particular user. Now suppose here also if we need some anything like to like nearest area like less than 5 or 10, so here basically we can in the under this where condition we can put some condition like distance less than 5, so it will fetch only those records. Let's say and here if we put this one, distance less than 200, let's say. Okay, so now if we see in the output, so here is a 110 one input and one is 722. So now if we put some condition, the distance is less than 200, so now we will get only one output, right? Because other one is 1722, so we'll get only one put. So let's see like how it is work. Okay, so if we like this one, okay, what it is saying, we have a syntax error by distance. Okay, okay, so either another options I am having is maybe using this. Let's okay, so here if we now try this one, so basically we have created some alias name, but that's actually not work with the where clause, so that's why we need to use the having clause, but it's still not working because here we need to give some space, because else it will combine the string together, so it will not get the syntax for this one. So now if we try this one, so it should work now. So now, okay, now you can see we get the details over here. So in condition what we have modified, like we have put another condition where the distance should be less than 200. So that's why it will filter out the records from the output of this one. Okay, so in this way basically we can put some we can calculate the distance from one location to another location using the MySQL some inbuilt method functions using the Hibernate spatial, right? So these are the things basically that we can use over here for saving the user location into the database, as well as how we are going to calculate the distance from one user to another user using this MySQL function. So that we can do in this way basically. Okay, so this is all about for like saving the information, user information with location into the database, and also by nearest location we can also fetch by using this SQL. So this is all about this tutorial. If you guys have anything, please do let me know in the comment sections. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Please place on the bell icon for further notification. Thank you for your time. Thanks. Bye bye.